Dennis, man, thank you very much for coming on the show, dude. I really appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me on.
It's an honor to get to speak to a strong ass motherfucker like yourself. It's very very cool to sit down and have a chat. And I think for a lot of people at the moment, what with the tiny instance of a global mass pandemic kind of shutting everyone down and screwing everyone's plans up, I'm kind of interested to kind of to take a peek into kind of your brain behind how you found everything with this, because I know for a hell of a lot of people that were peaking and were preparing for shows and were getting ready for a lot of big comps and meets in 2020. This is throwing a hell of a lot of spanners in the works, man. So I'm interested to hear, like, from your side of things, how have you found kind of, again, getting over this hurdle, and kind of how have you found it interrupting your plans? Has it actually benefited you having more time to be able to do stuff uninterrupted? How have you found it?
It's not been too big of a change for me. I do most of my training and stuff at home anyway. I was kind of finding myself going to a couple of specialty bars or some equipment that I didn't have in my garage. And it's funny, just before this hit, I actually purchased a couple of things that I needed at home. I didn't realize the gyms were going to shut down, and I'm glad that I did that because I was able to, basically I can do all my training at home now. So that worked out pretty good. It's actually, it hasn't been too much of a hurdle for me. As far as training wise. Now competition wise, it's kind of confusing, I've signed up for meets and stuff, but most of it has to be local, but
Yeah,
not too bad.
It's one of those things that I think it's just kind of been more of a nuisance and a pain in the ass for a lot of people that were kind of getting ready for bits and pieces. Like you said, having the convenience of being able to just hop down to your own gym and kind of do whatever you want at your own leisure has probably been one of the biggest godsends, because I think there are a lot of athletes out there that, especially at the front end of the lockdown, were struggling because they didn't have that kit. They were solely dependent upon being in that gym environment and around those people. And I think this is something that, again, has kind of, it's driven a wedge in the sand, because it's like, okay, all those people that are used to training in that gym environment and having tons of hype men around them and kind of getting really rolled up for lifts and whatever, it's like, okay, dude, you are forced to train in a completely different dynamic now for X amount of time. And for someone like you who, you seem to enjoy training by yourself quite a bit, I think it kind of falls into your favor a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't really it's kind of weird. Sometimes it's okay to go to the gym and socialize and stuff like that. For me, some people love doing that. I like to do it every now and then. It's not something I want to do all the time, because I find it more of a distraction, and it kind of messes up my training when I do that. So I kind of do it sparingly. People want to talk when they're around, and it kind of, like, I don't mind doing that, but at the same time, it's like when you're trying to get to a certain position, or certain, you got certain things in your mind that you're wanting to do. You can't do that every day. That, at least not for me.
Yeah, but again,
so
I think
find
it's, because you're at the standard that you're at as well. It's not exactly like you're throwing around little numbers. You're not benching, like, I don't know, 100 pounds, 200 pounds, like some of these other guys in the gym. The weights that you're fucking around with are serious numbers, and it's like, if you're not in that headspace, then some serious stuff can go down.
Yeah. Most of my, my best training cycles have been in my own garage. I can, I can do all my planning and lift to how I feel, instead of being around a bunch of people where I'm like kind of getting hyped up, and you tend to like overshoot numbers that you really weren't looking to do. You know what I mean? It's just, it works out better for me. It's less distracting.
And have you learned that through the years as well? Because I think for a lot of people, especially experienced lifters like yourself that have been in this game a decent time and have hit big numbers, that path and progression is obviously going to sway and curve throughout time, depending upon the different experiences that you come, into, and being in a gym environment, and potentially having that sort of stuff happen to you, where you're getting into the moment and you're getting involved with things that you didn't have on your plan sheet. and then things start going a little bit funny. Maybe you tweak your elbow, or your pec starts to hurt, you strain your bicep or something, and it's like, okay, I definitely need to stop doing this shit. So how am I gonna, eliminate that element of the environment? Okay, well, I'm just gonna train by myself then, and then I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when I set my garage up, I did it with the purpose of, I didn't want to buy a gym membership. So everything I had already had from childhood, essentially. I mean, most of my weights and my rack that you see, on my Instagram, I've had that since I was a little kid. So I just didn't want to pay for gym memberships. So when I moved into my house, I was like, I finally have a garage now, so I'm gonna put it all in there and start lifting at home, and go to a gym sparingly. And so that's really kind of why I started lifting in my garage. Just trying to get, save the cash.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
I'm trying to be a millionaire. By the time I retire, I don't want to spend money.
Dude, that's how you get there, right? That's how you get there. You save the pennies and you make the money, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I think I made I bought the cheapest combo rack I could buy, and I'm kind of glad I bought it because I can use it for all different, for squatting and bench pressing. So that worked out, but I don't buy anything, man. I mean, all my bars I've bought at Gras sales, or I've had them since, I've had three of them. I've got three of them in there that one of them my dad had before I was born. So,
I love that.
So there's that, and then, yeah, and then like some of the plates in there my dad had before I was born, and then, and then a lot of them I've just picked up over the years used. They're all used. I don't think I've ever bought a new plate. And then I bought two things from Titan Fitness that I needed to add to my stuff in there, so I could have didn't have. There's a couple things I have to do. I always had to go to a gym for, and I didn't like that, so I finally broke down and bought those. So the only things that I bought new are the Texas Street System combo rack and the two Titan Fitness bars, the camera bar, and another. But that's it, man.
I think that's again, like, that's
another
beautiful thing about powerlifting as well, isn't it? Like, I've spoken to loads of different people about this, and again, it's like when you have to focus on those kind of like three raw elements, and then the slight variations from heights or different bars or whatever. It's like, realistically, as a powerlifter, like, you don't have to have all this crazy stuff. You don't have to have all these like added systems. You don't have to have 1,000 pounds worth of chains. You don't have to have a Swiss bar, cambered bar, Duffalo bar, straight bar. You're like, okay, man, I need like maybe one or two things to get me going, and you can get stupidly far in the game with just those raw bits of equipment.
Yeah.
And like, I love that, man, because it means like pretty much anyone that has a tiny bit of space can do this at home.
Yeah. Yeah, you really can. I just don't see, I'd like to get the calibrated plates and stuff like that, but man, I just don't. When I think about the $3 to $5 grand that I got to spend on, I'm like, man, there's just other things I'd rather do with that.
But also, like, you're a fantastic person to speak to about this, because for someone that competes on so many different levels with, literally the best equipment that the federations have to offer, what do you feel like that carryover is? Because I think that's something that scares people as well. Like, a lot of people invest in these plates and spend big money because they're like, if I can train on this kid, then it's going to make me a better athlete on the day. And then it's like, then you come along and you're like, fuck that noise. I'm just going to lift with plates from like 1982. Like, I don't care about it. And then you go out there and just smash the floor with everyone. And you're like, well, hey, that 10 grand worth of like Eleiko plates was like super worth it, bro.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I like about training on these pound plates is when you get to a competition, it's a little bit of an element of an unknown when you get on the calibrated plates.
Okay.
And it always feels like, to me, they always feel lighter in competition.
Really?
So, and I think that's because they actually are, because I weighed a few of my plates out there, and they're always, almost all of them except for one are like at least 1 to 3 pounds over what they actually say they are. So, um, so when I get to a competition, I know I'm lifting the weight I'm supposed to be lifting. The only thing that kind of, the only other thing that I kind of considered buying is an Ohio Power Bar, so I can get used to the 29 millimeter bar,
Yeah.
and just because it's cheap, but trying to find one used. But yeah, I mean,
Easier said than
I'm a
done.
cheap ass man.
You just have to set up like a
But
GoFundMe
yeah,
page, a Dennis Cornelius like bar GoFundMe page. Please, guys, just to donate all of these bars. Anyone in the US, just send them across. I'll pay shipping. I pray.
and yeah, it's funny because, um, I mean, I could go buy a whole gym setup, but it's just I don't want to. I mean, there's just too many other things I want to do with money, and I've already got. Like I can accomplish what I need to do with what I got.
But I love that mentality,
I'd
though,
like to
dude.
have a like yeah, I'd like to have an apparatus a belt squat. I bought one, and I think I'm gonna design a little attachment to come off my squat rack to attach it to,
Sick.
and then I've got a belt squat. I can do it for $50.
Oh, damn.
So
That's pretty awesome.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I love that
But
like the creativity around like manufacturing like your own different bits of apparatus and like adjustments to your own setups at home. Like I saw a guy the other day on Instagram that just built this crazy wooden reverse hyperextension that just like clipped into the center of his rack, and I was like, man, that's just the sickest thing ever to be able to come out and build something like that. Like, it's so awesome. And again, with these garage gyms, it's like, oh, you can just hang it on the wall and it's like, boom, I've literally got everything I need here at a moment's notice. This is so convenient.
yeah. I've actually thought about making a reverse hyper out of wood. I just haven't done it. Um, I haven't. I don't use it enough to warrant making one, but I've thought about it. If I make stuff, I mean, some of that stuff. If I had to do it all over again, I'd make a lot of this stuff out of wood, literally, and just do it
Yeah.
that way. You, even the rack. I mean, you can. It just depends on how expensive it is. I haven't priced lumber or anything, but but yeah, I mean, I really think you can get away with as little as possible, man.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's really nice because I feel like that's reflected like when I go through your Instagram feed, man, and it's like in terms of your style of training, it's again, it's not all that like super high tech shit. Like it's not people using like tons of apparatus. It's like okay, we've got like simple bar work, we've got maybe like some pulls from a deficit, we've got maybe some block pulls, and it's like that's about it. I mean, it's like there's no cambered box squats, there's no like reverse banded hyperextension crazy shit. Like I love that, like because it's again something I think a lot of people can kind of look up to and be like, okay, this isn't super crazy complicated. I mean, little do they know that these movements take a lifetime to master, but hey, it's like, oh yeah, this is pretty simple stuff. Like there's no reason why I couldn't get involved with that. And then I think that's awesome because then again, it just opens the door to more athletes, doesn't it? The ease of access.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the deal. I mean, it's just it. You kind of work on the same thing over a long period of time, and you know, and you can finally get there. I have put more emphasis on the last probably couple of, especially since I got injured, more emphasis on doing some posterior chain work and stuff like that. Bef- Before I wasn't really doing that, so I put a lot of emphasis on that. So I've tried to make sure I have the stuff I need. So I've had to make or purchase a couple of things in order to do that. But
Yeah, but it's like
it's worked out pretty
the
well.
case of over the length of a career. It's like you just accrue more and more tools to your toolbox, don't you? Like everyone says, you start off with these basic bits of equipment, and then along the line, you're like, okay, I know that this is stalling, and I know that by utilizing this or this movement pattern or building this up on my body, I know I'm going to be able to break that plateau. So let's build that reverse hyper. Let's get that 45-degree back extension in, or whatever it is that you want to do. And it's like, okay, so then now this is part of the rotation. Okay, the lifts go up and we continue, and then we hit a new plateau. And okay, what
Yeah,
the fuck do we need to build on now? Right, let's get those triceps up. Let's get that Swiss bar. Let's go and do that. It's like, okay, over time you're going to
yeah,
need tools. And I mean, you're probably someone that's super qualified to talk on that, especially over the course of your career. At this top end, where the margins are so small and the number increments every single year just get finer and finer and finer as you get heavier and heavier. How have you found that process of hitting that plateau, taking that step back, reevaluating, bringing up whatever it is, and then going at it again? What's that been like for you, dude?
Well, usually it's been in stages, and a lot of times I'll reach out to. It got to that point. I guess I could say it got to that point, and when it did, I reached out to a coach, and then I reached out to another coach, and then I settled on ultimately settled on reactive training systems, and and that's been that was helped me have a big improvement in my training, changing things up. Kind of, I had an outside influence give me tips and pointers, and a whole workout that gave me ideas for my own stuff, and I was able to adjust and break through plateaus that way. Just basically when I get to a point where I feel like I'm not progressing, I reach out, really make it a point to reach out for more knowledge and just try to try different things out, basically.
Yeah, I love that. And the more people I get to speak to on here, I think the more that point becomes more and more prominent in terms of yes, there is so far you can get on your own, but if you have, the open-mindedness to reach out to, especially specialists in the area, if you're struggling with, with a certain aspect of your lockout on this or that, then, there's, several people that, you could go to and be like, that guy has the best fucking lockout in the world. That guy's the best off of the floor. He's the most explosive. She's the best at this. It's like, okay, being able to then reach out and be humble enough to be like, hey guys, I understand that this isn't good at the moment or where I want it to be, and I know that you have the tools to help me to get to where you want to go. And dude, I'm sure you have had the exact same thing. Athletes reach out to you and be like, hey man, really struggling with this. I know you're so super good at it. Do you have any tips? Can you help me? And I think that's this is what I fucking love about power sports, is even the people at the top of the game, they to an extent want everyone else to come up with them as well, because it just raises the bar of the sport and it raises the competitive nature. And I think you could probably kind of speak to that in the sense of if you're reaching out to these coaches and whatever, and they have other athletes that are in the same competitive, communities as you, it's like, that's a conflict of interest, but they don't give a fuck because they want to see you lift the biggest number that you can, and for everyone else, that's super awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's to an extent it is. I mean, obviously, I don't. There's certain things that I kind of want to keep secret, but then somebody flat out asked me, what I do for this, I'll tell them. I mean, I'll tell them. I get questions. It kind of comes in waves. I mean, usually when I do a meet, people ask me all these questions, and then and then it kind of dies off for a while. But I mean, a lot of times I miss stuff too. People ask, and I'll miss, and I'll see it 6 months later, and then I'm like, they probably think I'm an asshole. I can answer them, but it's because I saw it. I was like, I can't answer this right now. I'm working. And then I forget about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do that a lot.
Yeah, dude, I am in the exact same boat. Now it's like, if anything comes through, it's like, okay, answer it now, or this is never going to get replied to. I completely understand you.
Yeah. I've had a couple of, even guys that I've known have talked to it, and they've asked me stuff, and I've forgotten to get back with them.
Like, hey man, you there? You're like, oh yeah, sorry about that, dude. I'll get that across to you right now.
Yeah. So I do that quite a bit. So I have a tendency to forget, man.
Hey man, you got a lot going on. And that's what I was going to come to. How do you find kind of the nature of the beast in terms of being an athlete, working, having an income, trying to keep the roof over your head, all the while trying to progress, trying to create the least amount of stress, trying to create the best environment for you to excel. There's, you're spinning a lot of plates, at once. And like I've spoken to several people about this, and various different people get affected by it in different ways with their mental health and whatever. But how do you cope with all of that, spinning so many plates, having to do so many different things at once, and kind of try and keep your focus on the overall grand kind of goal for you of whatever it is for that training season or year?
Well, I mean, you kind of settle into, the good thing about powerlifting is you can do it part time. It's kind of a working man sport, I guess. You don't have to. It's not like for wrestling or jiu-jitsu or something like that where you've got to train for this many hours, then you got to do this for this many hours. It's just, I spend a lot of time on the weekends doing my big lifts, and then during the week, I spend a lot of time doing it at night. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a couple, 2-3 hours at night and on the weekends every day, but it's something, once you get your career kind of going, and then you work 9 to or 7:30 to 6, or whatever it is I work, and then you do your training, then you do the family time at an hour or so at night, and then and then sometimes I work a little bit at night when the kids go to bed. So I mean it's you just, like, you don't really have time to lay around, like I don't really get that time.
Yeah.
But sometimes I have to force myself to do that. But I mean, I'm just constantly doing something. But it's normal to me, I mean, it's just kind of always been that way.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you've been around it for so long and it's kind of integrated as part of your life, you can get through because you find the time, don't you? If it's important enough to you and you give enough, shits about it,
Yeah.
You're gonna make it work, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, what I'd like to do, this is what I've done in the past. I've woken up at 4:30 and worked till 11. But the problem is like then it starts affecting my training, and it's like, okay, well, I've got to sleep till 7 now. So, and then it's just like, okay, I got less time to do stuff. But so, I'd love to get up. I'd love to like sleep 5 hours a night and do everything, because I think that would give me the ultimate time to do everything in the day that I want to do. But
Yeah.
I just can't. You got to sleep, man, especially when you're doing this.
Dude, I was about to. When you said 5 hours, I literally felt like my heart was about to fail. I was like, "Wow! If you think a CNS is gonna appreciate 5 hours of sleep with the numbers you're lifting, then something's gone horribly wrong. Your body will just be like, what are you doing? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
You just get far too.
I'll get to
up.
where I want to do that. Yeah. Just no energy at night to train, and so it sucks because I can get so much done, man. Morning hours, nobody's awake. I get so much done, but it kills my training.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it's one of those things, isn't it? Is that over time you then have to find what works. There may be lots of people that are like trying to force that, like you've said, and it's like, okay, but yes, I can get everything done, but it's the double-edged sword of that. Okay, then I lose out on this. My recovery isn't quite as good. And I guess that's probably something else that you just had to kind of juggle with and play around with and experiment with over time.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, sometimes I'm too stupid to learn the first time, and I'll try it again, and then and then I'll eventually get it, but yeah, I mean, it's just something you have to play around with. And I tend to be a night owl, so going to bed at 8 o'clock just doesn't work for me. I mean, yeah. I can stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing stuff, especially if I'm designing stuff or whatever it is I'm doing, but getting that I've got to get the 7 hours of sleep, man, or it kills my training.
I was going to say, do you have kind of like standards that you're like, you have to hit this as a minimum, and then everything else outside of that is like flexible? How do you kind of adhere to that?
Yeah, that's kind of the way. You're talking about for training?
Well, for training, for sleep, for nutrition, like, do you have like certain things where you're like, okay, in a day I must do X, Y, and Z, and then everything else outside of
Yes.
that, I can kind of be flexible with.
Yes, pretty much. I mean, I've got to get a certain amount of sleep. I have, training. I have to hit certain numbers, and yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it just depends on what it is, but yeah, and then other stuff kind of floats. Takes backseat. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
100.
kind of the deal. I have a family, so making sure that I'm here with them. That's another big reason to train here is because I'm here with my kids and family and stuff. So I want to make sure that I'm not stuck at the gym for 3 or 4 hours. I'm stuck in my garage for 3 or 4 hours at a time. So
Yeah, yeah, I love that
that's
though, man,
important.
because it's like your ease of access for all kind of the points in your life are there. It's everything that you need in terms of like you're ticking all those boxes. You are invariably juggling all those plates, but you're doing it on your own time, like which I think is really really cool. And what I was going to kind of go back to with obviously the fact of with all of your engineering and whatever and design work, it's do you find that that's quite nice to be able to draw you away from all of the elements of powerlifting, etc., and you can take your brain into a completely different space that kind of allows you to not have to think about those certain things, whether it's numbers that you might not have hit, or maybe you had a crap day in the gym, to be able to just switch off completely from that and be like, okay, now I need to work, now I need to get involved with this. I don't need to worry about that anymore. We'll come back to training when work's done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it I kind of picked a career around. I didn't know I was going to become a power lifter, but it's kind of funny because I picked a career. I'm like, okay, what can I do where I can lift weights at night when I was young, um, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to, I never really wanted to be a powerlifting coach or any kind of a coach or in any kind of that stuff. So it's kind of nice to have that separate, and then my powerlifting career separate. I mean, it's nice to have those separated. Um, a lot of people they coach and they like are in the fitness industry all day long. That's all they do, and then they train. I mean, that's got to get. I would think that would get old after a while. You know what I mean? Like your hobbies and your job. I don't know. I don't. Maybe not. I don't know. But I can sort of escape the real world, go lift weights, and
Yeah,
whereas some people that's their life. Their life is dependent on them winning IPF worlds or you know.
and I also think that's a super super interesting
I would.
dynamic as well, because that then brings in like a completely different external stress element that like a lot of people probably
Yeah.
don't think about, especially like people that don't know a lot of the ins and outs about powerlifting and stuff. Like you said there are a lot of guys that are trying to get titles, trying to get records because they are trying to pay bills. And when you have that stress where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, gotta win this today or I'm not fucking eating for a month, it's like that changes the dynamic. But when you have that safety and security like you do you feel like that kind of allows you to come at it from a different standpoint and maybe allows you to be more relaxed going into competitions? Or have more fun, should I
Maybe
say?
not in the competition. Yeah, I mean, I think it started out that way. Um, yes, sort of. I think it started out that way, and then the more I've gotten into powerlifting and gotten into the IPF, I mean, it's become a second job essentially. So I mean, basically, it's two jobs now. So, um, I mean, it's not my sole source of income. So if it were stopped tomorrow, I mean, life would go on as normal in my regular career. Actually, probably go up. But because if I put all the effort into my career as I do my career in powerlifting, it'd probably be a little different. Um, but I just can't do that, with powerlifting. But um, yeah, I mean, it, I think at one point it was I looked at it as more of a hobby and it was more fun. Now it's kind of like a job, and sometimes I have to reel that back, and say, okay, this is not a real job. It's this is a hobby, and I think doing the IPF, I think it's kind of turned it into. I mean, you almost have to be a professional now. I mean, it's gotten so competitive that you've really got to take it up a notch, and it's really got to be professional, because they're like I said, there's people that are literally making their life around this.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And I think it's
in
interesting.
order for me to stay current,
Yeah, like
stay current in our job. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it's fine. Absolutely, it's absolutely fine. You crack on. Sorry, that it's dealing with the delay of like 5 seconds is always super interesting over international calls.
Yeah. So yeah, dealing with so the people that have to do this as their living, it I don't know, I think that would be really really stressful. I think after you win worlds a couple of times, it might not be as stressful, and they can go, okay, they're going to step back and be a coach, you know. But but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I with
I
powerlifting,
stress out stuff just doing it.
I feel like it's a case now of as the sport's getting more and more professional, and you've got guys like Ray that are really trying to push to get this standard of like IPF into like the Olympics and stuff. It's like we're really really pushing on the top edge of the greatest athletes in the world now. So if you want to be on that stage and you want to be on that level, you have to be giving that amount of effort. And anyone that's ever played sport to a super high level or achieved anything or been on the world stage like you have, that commitment is no joke. It is a huge portion of your life. And now you've got these kids that are coming through that are making decent figures on Instagram, doing whatever, being influencers and doing whatever, and not necessarily having to have your stereotypical conventional job and spending 10 hours a day in the gym and getting paid for it. It's like, again, that then just means that I think in the years to come, we're also going to see some, well, I mean, we are seeing some freaks come out of the woodwork now, but over the next several years, where all those young kids that are now in the system and that are now coming through that have the capability to train as a full-time job, I think we're going to see some absolute fucking monsters come out of the system soon, dude.
Yeah. Well, I think you're seeing it now. I mean, I think even 7, 8, 10 years ago, you didn't see what you see now. Now you're exactly right. You're seeing it's a lot of young kids that are coming out that are they're just studs, and it's like, man, I've got to like take my training up a notch. And now that I'm getting older, I'm getting older and realizing, like, okay, I can't just, I've got to like really take this serious, and because I don't want to get beat, I mean, so yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's just that little voice in the back of your head that's like, yeah, don't let them get it. Don't let them get it. Work harder than them. Stay on it, man. Stay on it. Don't let these youngsters get you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, my recovery's, I mean, it's still good, but I can tell, I'm 40, and I'm not 20 anymore,
Yeah.
and it, when you get to that age, I don't know how old you are, but when you get to 40, you can start to tell, like, okay, this is, I've really got to pay attention to what I'm eating and how much sleep I'm getting, and because this kid's coming up, and this kid's coming up, and I'm looking at weight classes thinking, okay, this kid's 24 and he's going to be in my weight class in 3 years, and he's going to be hitting these numbers. I mean, I'm constantly looking at that.
You're like, oh man, if they keep on going on this trajectory, we got a problem on our hands here.
Yeah. So I mean, but
But do you also think it's a
yeah,
case of that the game? Like I personally, I'm not super deep involved with powerlifting. My background, as short as it is in strongman, and then before that I played rugby to like a semi-pro level over here in England. But I think it's interesting now looking at the powerlifting game and how things have changed in terms of the youngsters coming through now, and how, you know, I would say like back in your day, like it's a different generation, but I feel like, you know, you're also right on that kind of like precipice of the generational difference, where it's like you're coming into the sport to smash those world records, to get the title, to get your name out there, whereas like now I kind of feel like, well, it's the same with strongman now, and I think it's the same with powerlifting in the sense of like these kids are coming at it from a different place where they're like, okay, if I know I can do this and I break this record, I get to make some bank, and then I just keep on doing what I'm doing in the background, come back next year and break it by a kilo and make some more bank, and then it basically has become like a money-making machine for these kids that are like, okay, I'm just going to keep 10 kilos in the reserve and just keep on coming back every single year and smashing my own records. I feel like the money aspect of it, and the fact that people can have seen that people can make money from it, has kind of, I think that's also then helps to bring so many more people through that system, because they're like, oh, okay, maybe I can make some bank and lift weights. Like, who needs a real job?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't look at it like that. If my opinion, if I have a chance to break a record and smash it, I'll smash it, because I'm at a point now where I'm like, I may not be back next year, or something may happen that keeps me out of it. So, I mean, when you're young, yeah, you kind of tend to think like that, but when you get older, you're like I'm here, you know, this is here now, and like now's my chance. If I don't take it, I may not get this again, you know. Even though you think you might, sometimes you might not. Perfect example of that was when I was in Belarus in 2017. You know, I broke the squat record, and Tony Harris held it. He chipped my record, and honestly, I think he might have had more in him that day. And when I went to Belarus, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna, you know, tell you, I almost didn't make it there.
Yeah.
But when I got there, I was like, I'm not only gonna chip this, I'm gonna put on as much weight as I could possibly put on the bar and break it, because he may come back and try to chip it next year,
yeah,
you know, or somebody else might. And
just that one.
I'm not going to wait around on that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to break it and try to, you know, and you know, make sure that it doesn't get touched for a while. Because it turned out I actually dropped out of Worlds in 2018, and then 2019 I got injured. So it's, you know, you just never know, you know. So.
Yeah, it's a constant roll of the dice, isn't it, man? And I think that's the thing, is that when you're in that mentality and that mindset, like you said, like being like, okay, I might not be here next year, so why don't we chuck another 5 kilos on there, sink it, and then I know that you know, this more than likely isn't going to get touched for at least a couple of years, and then my name will still be up there, and I can kind of sit back and be like, hey, I did that. Have fun, kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, in Texas, when, you know, I remember a couple of people didn't take the opportunity to go to Worlds when it was in Texas in 2016.
Yeah.
And when I found out it was going to be in Texas, I was like, dude, I'm jumping on that. I have to jump on that while it's here. I mean, it's right here in my backyard. And I was like, there's, you know, the missed opportunity would be just horrible. And I remember a couple of people, one particular guy in my weight class, and another, you know, a couple of other people that would have been, that are big names, that didn't do it. It's like, man, why not? You know, like that, it's here, and now's your chance, man.
Yeah.
And I capitalized on it, and it actually was my best performance to date in the IPF. I mean, it's not my best performance in other feds, but in the IPF. And, you know, I was thinking, shoot, I'll break this total easily next year, or the, you know, year after. And it's not been the case, man, because, you know, weight gain, and, you know, I tend to, you know, dropping weight sucks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that was something that I was really curious to hear about from your aspect of things, because obviously, you know, I've heard you speak about it on several different occasions now. You know, what with the different federations and the tested feds being you know, in a weight cat that you're super comfortable in, that you can walk into pretty comfy and not have to cut too hard or kind of put too much on. But but then the double-edged sword of being like, okay, I'm the only natty guy in the room, but this is like my perfect weight to be at. It's like, dude, that's got to be so hard for you to kind of be presented with. Okay, which of the lesser of two evils do I want to have?
Yeah, it is, and that does suck because in the 120 kilo weight class sucks for me because I really have to drop a lot of weight.
Yeah,
and if I could compete at 285 or even 275, it would be much, much better for me. I wish the IPF would stop trying to follow the follow weightlifting's weight classes. Yeah. They changed them anyway. So it's like, why don't we just, do our own and not, follow them, or just stick with the old school weight classes like the 275s and the 308s and the 242s. Why change that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a lot more interesting anyway.
But it's also a strange dynamic because the build of people is completely different as well. The build and the athleticism and the overall thing that you're trying to achieve is different. So why are you still trying to use an unconventional weight system for athletes that don't fit that bill? It doesn't really make sense. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how many years has it been like this? Like, I've spoken to Delroy McQueen about this. He's the exact same. Like, he feels the exact same as you do. Like, it's a case of a lot of these federations, I think, like, a lot of people are kind of getting fed up now, where it's like, okay, can we just sort this out? If it isn't weight cats, it's people using different, different systems, ratings, and Wilks and dots, and it's like, okay, can we all just sing off of one fucking hymn sheet, please? Because this is just, it's an absolute mess out there.
Yeah, it is a mess, and it still is a mess, even with the new point system. The point system and the weight classes in the IPF, they suck, man. People say, oh, they're much better. They are much better than the point system they had before, but it's still not good. I still think dots is the best thing out there. I think you'd have to be kind of blind to see that. I mean, it is definitely the best. When you look at the numbers of everybody, and you look, as much research as whoever's behind that as they've done, it's clearly obvious where they stand compared to the new point system, and also the weight classes. I mean, it just, guys like me and Tony, Cliff, and a couple of others. We have to drop 10 kilos to get down into this weight class.
Which is mad.
Especially like Tony.
Tony
Cliff is way too big for that class.
Way too big. How much is he dropping? He must be dropping some serious weight to get into that.
I think he stays lean, but I think he's more disciplined as far as that's concerned with his weight. I think he keeps himself around 125 kilo. I mean, I could be wrong.
Okay.
He may get a little heavier than that.
Oh, damn. Okay.
But I mean, Tony's 6. Yeah, I mean, he's 6'2", man. He's just huge. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he stays in that weight class like that. I mean, I would think Tony could get up and be 300 pounds in no time, I would think, and be putting up some serious numbers. Man.
I was literally about to say that. I'm probably putting up some pretty mad numbers as well. Like, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? I think, like, for me, as someone that, like, loves strength sports and loves seeing athletes like you guys go out there and do the unthinkable and do the crazy shit and break the records, it's like, it's like you're fighting with one hand behind your back. It's like, okay, well, if we remove this and we give people the opportunity to be in the categories that they naturally fit into, the numbers are only going to be better. Yes. The spectacles are only going to be greater. The numbers that you draw in are only going to be bigger. Like, it's only going to be better for the sport. So that's why I sit here really confused, being like, why are they still so rigid in their way of sticking to the system? Because it feels like it's only going to benefit the sport.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I think. I mean, if you had a 130-pound weight or 130 kilo weight class, for instance, all the guys that are at 120 right now would go to 130 immediately. Or most of them,
Because it's nicer as well. You get to eat more. You don't have to worry about all that shit.
Yeah, you get to eat more. I mean, I would even probably still have to cut just a hair, but it wouldn't be so drastic, you know. I mean, it would be manageable. Most of the time, I'd probably just walk into the weight class, um, but you know, change the 105s up to 109 or whatever they want to change it to, you know. And but yeah, I mean, it'd be so much better. The numbers would be, you know, the totals would be 100 pounds heavier than what they are at 120.
Yeah.
You know, 50 to 60, 70 kilos more. So I mean, you know, yeah, I wish they would change. I wish they would fix that.
Yeah. It's got to be pretty frustrating.
Because that's a different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. It doesn't make logical sense in my head.
Yeah, in the USPA IPL, for instance, you know, they have a drug tested division now, and it's almost more popular than the non-tested division. And it's, you know, I mean, it's real attractive to me because you got the deadlift bar, you've got the you know, I can walk in, I can cut, you know, they have the 24-hour weigh-in, so I can cut, you know, I can cut 5 or 10 pounds off from, let's say 280, 285, cut down to 125, and then rehydrate the night before and walk in what I would normally walk in anyway, you know, and lift. And I'm 15 to 20 pounds heavier at 125 kilos than I am at 120 kilos, you know. I mean, it's and a lot stronger. You know, it's hard for me to make the conscious decision to keep competing at 120 when, you know, it's like I'm too far away from Ray Williams to try to chase the supers.
Yeah.
Now I have the luxury of being a super, and I've really thought about it as going to Masters World as a super heavyweight. You know, I've thought about doing that.
That'd be tasty.
Yeah, that's a big possibility for me too. You know, go in as super heavy. If I get on the open team, great. If I don't, I'm going to Masters Worlds, and it's, you know, so I don't know. I mean, I've thought about doing that too.
That doesn't seem like a bad idea, man. That doesn't seem like a bad idea at all, and probably going to be a little bit nicer for your body as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot less chance of injury because I'm not cutting all the water. And it seems like every time I do 120, I cut down, I tweak something, and usually my back suffers because of it. But yeah, I mean, Masters World is a big possibility, but it would be a super heavy if I do that, you know. So
yeah, just one of those things you want to tally up and see how the body feels, right?
Yeah, you know, getting the you know, they still have the media behind the Masters Worlds. I mean, it's a big deal too, you know.
Yeah.
I think guys like me that started, and I mean, I could go set the bar higher up there, you know, and so I don't know. It's a possibility. I'm really considering it for next year.
But I think it's also one of those things. It's as time goes on as well. It's like understanding, you know, what ballpark you want to be playing in, and it's like, okay, yes, I can probably go back and do all these things, and I can step into that division and probably do quite well, or I can take this sideways leap and I can be in a division where I'm more comfortable, my body is healthier, I'm loading my body in a way that I feel better, and then going into competition I feel good as well. And I think, again, as your training age progresses and the more niggles and stuff you pick up along the way, like you said, just being able to put on that deadlift bar, I mean, that alone is a fantastic, you know, jump, because it allows you to stick some serious weight on there. Like, you can, what are you putting on, that extra, like, 30, 40 pounds on a deadlift bar?
Yeah, on a deadlift bar, I'll probably get probably 20, somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds. I get extra out of it. Some people, it messes them up, but it helps me because I pull smooth anyway. A lot of people are kind of crazy and dynamic, whereas I pull real smooth, so it helps me. It just, you know, less travel distance for me.
Yeah, it's hard because you're like, okay, how can I, with all of these factors, be like, no, I'm not gonna go down that route. As awesome and as lovely as that sounds, I'm just gonna keep on trying to go down here. It's like, that's gonna be so tough, man.
Yeah, it is. It's hard, you know. I think if it had the popularity behind it like the IPF does, I mean, it would be no question I'd do that. In the States, I mean, they're still there, man. I mean, I say this year after year. The USPA, they're still there. I mean, they're doing drug tested now. So their drug tested meats. When you look at their calendar, they have almost more drug tested meats than they did tested meats. Hopefully, they keep doing that and push all the tested, make non-tested obsolete.
Yeah, yeah. We can live in hope.
uh, yeah, yeah. Get rid of the non-tested stuff once and for all.
Yeah, I know,
But
I know
that's my opinion.
you're big around that. Yeah, I think we'd see a hell of a lot of people fall by the wayside if that was the case.
Yeah, yeah.
You're like, oh, well, where did
Yeah, I
everyone
mean,
go?
yeah, but yeah, I'd love to go back to um, those old weight classes, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think hopefully if people keep on making enough noise and people keep on kind of expressing their, I don't want to say dislike, but like the inconvenience of the current system, I think eventually people have to start listening, especially when guys like yourself are saying it. It's like, this isn't, average Joe on Instagram that has like 2 followers and their profile picture's like a fucking cat. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is someone that actually has some validity, that's been there, that's been to multiple different federations and been like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Why in the hell are you guys doing this like this? That's awful. What is this spotting? It's like you have probably, from an athlete's perspective, one of the greatest diversities of experience of different federations to be able to say, okay, I know that works, and I know that works. So again, it confuses me that people aren't listening.
Yeah, there's a lot of people don't have it. It kind of cracks me up that a lot of people I mean they're very loyal to the IPF and USAPL, and that's fine, man. There's nothing wrong. I have no issues with the federation at all, but it's like there's other stuff out there too, I mean, and you know. But now with the advent of this big money meet that the SBD was going to do this year, and it got canceled, do it next year.
Yeah.
It's all done on a point system anyway, so your weight doesn't even matter. It's like, so I mean, my opinion is somebody needs to go to Worlds, get as many points as possible at whatever weight they're at naturally, and try to qualify for it that way. I think it would make that more interesting as well.
Yes.
Because there really is no weight classes in it. It's a battle of points at that point.
Well, I also that would
they
also be like a lot more engaging and interesting for the people involved as well. Do you not think?
Yeah, I mean, and you cut off the weight classes, so you watch this meet and you see guys putting up 10 pounds heavier, putting up 50 more pounds or 60 100 more pounds on their total than they would normally do.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally total 100 pounds more at 20 pounds body weight heavier. So
That's crazy margins.
yeah, I mean, it's huge, and it's a lot more fun. It's the stronger you get it, it's more fun to, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, man, it feels good to lift heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, that's the whole point of the sport, is to have fun.
Hell
with it.
yeah.
It's like, I don't want to cut all this weight, and I want to get as big as possible. And the night before meet, I want to eat a bunch of pop and drink beer, and I mean, that's just what I want to do, and carb up before the night before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, to me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's the fun stuff. That's why you do like the 3 hours of training every single night, regardless of whether or not you want to or not. Like, it's that bowl of pasta before a meet, and you going in feeling good and lifting some crazy ass numbers and walking out being like, hey, all those hundreds of hours leading up to this competition was worth it. Like, that felt incredible, and like that's all the feedback you need, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me it is. I mean, that, other people their opinion may differ, but but to me it is, you know.
You got to do what's right for you, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, if that's what gets you going, then that's what gets you going. That's your motivating factor. That's what it's all about. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, getting.
So I really love to wrap up the podcast in the same way with everyone, because I think it's very interesting that people have different viewpoints and kind of come from different places. So for a second, I want you to imagine that you're taking a step into a time machine and you're going back in time and you're getting to visit your younger self, you know, maybe 10, 11, 12, 13 years of age, you know, very influential. You've got a lot of big decisions to make in your life coming up. You get to spend a few moments with your younger self and impart, you know, a mantra, some wisdom, knowledge to help them, you know, get through everything that they are going to have to eventually go through that you know about to get to where you stand today. In those few moments with your younger self, what do you say to them? What do you give them? How do you help them to navigate their way through kind of the madness that is life?
No, I mean, I guess it depends on what age it was, you know. I mean, if it, you know, if I could go back to high school, if I could go back to myself in college, for instance, I'd stop wasting time and take what you need to take and get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Quit wasting money on all this stuff. You know, if I could go back to high school, you know, I wouldn't play football. I'd wrestle. Say wrestle. You know, I tell myself to wrestle. Do that.
Yeah.
This is what you're good at. You know, if I could, the career aspirations I have, I've met my career aspirations of what I've always wanted to do. So I wouldn't change anything there. My athletic endeavors, I'd probably change a little bit. You know, I'm doing for the most part, what I set out to do when I was, 13 years old. You know, but I would change some things on you know, different. I'm kind of all over the place, but it's the little stuff that I would change growing up. You know, I wouldn't waste so much time doing this. I would focus more on, you know, I don't want to get into it, but there's some things that I would definitely fix. I wish I could go back and fix.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, but I love that, like, the overarching theme of the, regardless of all those different things that you've had to kind of come into play with and have interfered in your progression, you can still look back and say, hey, even through all of this, even after jumping over all of these hurdles, that 13-year-old kid got what he wanted, which is to hold these titles, which is to lift the numbers that you're putting up, to, you know, break incredible world records and you know, lift incredible feats of strength on a regular basis. You know, it's amazing. You know, and a lot of people will never understand or experience what you have. And I think it's awesome, man. You know, just keep on doing what you're doing, and I think we're gonna hopefully see some super fucking exciting numbers come out of you. You know, in the next year or so, and with hopefully going into the super heavyweight masters category as well, and seeing what we can get out in there too, man. I think that's a very exciting opportunity.
Yeah, I'm really considering that. I think I think they're starving for a heavyweight, and I think I might be just the guy. So
I think you might be too, man. I think you might be too. It's very exciting times. But man, thank you so much for coming on the show, dude. I really appreciate you being here. It's been an honor talking to you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man.